Okay, so the reason we're digging in Middlefield is because my colleague Ian Waits was brought up here. It's a council estate. It was planned in the late 50s, built in the early 60s, following a utopian model that was pioneered in America in 1928 at Radburn in New Jersey.
So what we want to do is to kind of get the people who live on the estate now to be aware of their history and aware of the past, and really about the history of the estate, so they get a better idea of where they live and maybe form a bit more of an attachment that the place where they live is worth something.
5 bags of fines in. We will swap your bag of fines for a bag of Haribo. The adults get a bag of
Yes. Yeah. Whereabouts are you?
So it was a utopian estate because it was planned according to the ideas that you could plan for a better place to live. You could make a good place to live by thinking about how to design it.
Well, at the moment I'm just taking the turf off, then they'll come round and test for any cables and pipes. Then hopefully we can start digging out and find some artefacts. We'll probably find clay pipe, maybe bits of old pottery. A bit of luck we might find something that's really interesting.
Which might be?
A bone. Optimistic.
When I was young, I used to live on Privy Close, and an old lady that used to live on the street where we lived, she used to tell us all sorts of stories, and she told us that it was built, we were living on a burial ground. When you're a little girl, that's like, wow.
And actually yesterday doing the digging we found marbles and little bits of toy cars, a wheel from a toy car and things like that, and actually the marble was chipped in the sort of way that actually Ian says he remembers when he was a kid they used to try and break the marbles by throwing them against walls to chip them, because it's really difficult to do that.
They were planned for people to stay put and not to be this kind of transient thing about sort of moving and kind of, you know, waiting for the house to kind of grow in value and then moving on. They were meant to be permanent solutions and give people a really nice environment and a really nice house to the point where they didn't want to move on.
And this place is called Middlefield because it's named after the medieval field name. And that's another good link with utopia, really, because of course utopia means no place, and Middlefield sort of means no place as well. It's the middle field, it's away from the settlements, it's not anywhere, it's just in the middle of nowhere really. But actually what we found from the digging is that there's lots and lots of stuff going on. You can see in the pit at the moment. That's an oyster shell. Okay, nowadays if we buy oysters they're really expensive, really expensive.
But these are expensive.
But they, in the Victorian period, when people are using pipes like that, these shells are actually, the oysters are really cheap, and people would buy them in the pub as cheap snacks. You know, if you buy crisps.
To turn up, I think some coins, some treasure, and then my little boy, he'll get really excited. Failing that, he wants some bone, which we found already. And maybe some bits of clay pipe. I found quite a bit of that in it.
A time slice almost, because you're going down into the ground, you're going down into time. And I always think it's a bit like when if you're out in a boat on the water, you look across the surface of the water and you can't see anything but the surface. But if you've got a glass bottom to it, you can kind of see down. And Testpit is just like that, you can kind of see down into time. And it's just amazing, you know, we've got so much stuff coming up. But what is really interesting is the material culture, you know, the stuff from the last 50 years.
Like household implements, like this is from packaging from a Parker pen. So someone's been tipping the rubbish on it at some point.
Wow.
Quite a few bits of clay pipe as well. So
the area open space, you compare the amount of open space you've got here compared to an average modern developed estate where you've got gardens the size of a pocket handkerchief and people are crammed in together, and you've got much more open space here. So, you know, who knows? It's very, very interesting actually, because what that tells us is that that pottery hasn't moved around very much. So that tells us that whatever date that is probably quite close to where it's thrown away. So it hasn't been taken from somewhere else and spread about in the fields, or taken as night soil from the town and dumped on the fields. If you've got two bits that fit together like that, it's more likely people are living nearby, and it's immediately where it's first been thrown out. So that's very interesting.
I say to them, you know, do you like it here? Oh yeah. Why do you like it? It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's green. So in that respect, you know, they're seeing exactly what I saw of it when I was a kid. So it's about keeping the kind of flame really about social housing, council housing, that people need this sort of thing. They need it more than ever.
Plenty of play here, but the spirit has been absolutely fantastic. Have you all enjoyed it? To give more people the chance to get involved in this, and then to be able to have the skills to carry on themselves, because people enjoy it. It's very enriching for people's lives. If people just feel good for having done it, and it tells us so much more about the past. So that's my ambition for the future.
Yeah, it was very much about very much Mr. Tony. It's Mr. Candy in Lincoln. Very much about permanence, not about money. It was about stable communities, happy, content people.